A long time ago, deep in space, a strange signal echoed across the galaxy. It was not a voice, not a language anyone could understand. It was just a simple sound, a low hum followed by a cold, flat message. 3 words. They are coming. Nobody knew who sent it. Nobody knew who they were. But the signal came from a place known as the Dark Void, a dead part of space where no life had ever been found. The message spread fast. On the planet Xaner, the leaders of the Xanari Council called an emergency meeting. They were known as the smartest species in the galaxy. Their giant heads glowed with nervous lights. "This is a warning," said High Leader Vrax. "They are coming. We must hide. Lock our planet. Seal the skies." The same happened on the ice planet Drovak. The Drovians shut their gates. Sky shields were activated. They even sent ships away to unknown places. Every species who heard the message reacted. The same way, they panicked. Except one. On Earth, Captain Raylan sat in a dark room staring at the message. He played it again and again. The words had no voice, but still, he felt something inside his chest each time he heard them. His team stood around him. Soldiers, pilots, scientists, all human. All waiting for his command. "They are coming," Raylan whispered. "Them come." His voice was calm. Not because he was brave, not because he was foolish, but because something inside him refused to bow down. Humans had always been strange among the galactic species. They were weaker, smaller, had no special powers, no shields on their bodies. But there was something inside them that even the smartest races didn't understand. They didn't fear the unknown the way others did. When Earth got the message, the leaders met just like other planets. But instead of hiding, they called Raylan. Because when the galaxy felt fear, humans sent soldiers. Raylan stood up from his chair, prepped the ship. "We're going into the Dark Void," he said. His second in command, a woman named Kara, stepped forward alone. "Yes, the others won't come. They think we're crazy." Raylan smiled. "They're right." Within hours, Raylan and his team boarded the Valar, a battlecruiser designed for deep space war. It wasn't the biggest ship, it wasn't the strongest, but it carried humans, and that made all the difference. As the Valar left Earth, messages from other planets started coming in. "Human ship, turn back. This is madness. You will die. You'll bring doom upon your kind," Alan sent. Only one message in return. "We do not run." For days they crossed empty space. The stars became fewer. The sky turned darker. Even Kara, brave as she was, felt the weight of the darkness pressing on her heart. Then they reached it. The edge. Of the dark void, before them floated a giant wall of black. Not just darkness, but a moving, living shadow. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Ships, broken and dead, floated at the edge like bones around a monster's mouth. "What is that?" Kara whispered. Raylan stood at the front of the ship, staring. His eyes cold, that he said is our enemy. Shadow moved, slowly, like a wave, and from it, ships emerged, but they weren't like normal ships. These looked alive, shaped like screaming faces, their metal bodies dripping black liquid into space. Hundreds of them. Thousands. They moved fast. Too fast. Raylan watched as they swept across the stars. The first targets were nearby worlds. One after another, planets burned. The news came quick. Xaner was attacked. As the Drovians tried to fight, their shields lasted 10 seconds. The Growl Empire's fleets disappeared in space without a trace. Every species in the galaxy sent the same message. We surrender. But surrender meant nothing. The enemy destroyed everything. Inside the Valar, Kara turned to Raylan. "What do we do now?" Raylan watched the enemy ships coming closer. His eyes didn't blink. "We stepped forward." They set a course straight into the enemy fleet. Alarms rang. The ship shook. Warnings flashed. Kara grabbed the controls. "Captain, this is suicide." Raylan smiled, a thin, cold smile. "Not suicide." Introduction. The first enemy ship came at them. It was 10 times bigger. Its face-like body opened like a mouth. Black fire poured from it. But the Valor moved fast. Humans didn't fight like other species. They didn't fire from a distance. They got close. They got personal. Kara pushed the engines. The ship flipped. Sideways, sliding under the black fire. They came so close they could see inside the enemy's ship. Where shadows moved like living nightmares, Raylan fired. A single missile, right into the open mouth. The enemy ship exploded. For a moment, the stars lit up, Kara shouted, direct hit. But then, enemy ships turned. All of them. They had noticed the humans. The Black Fleet swarmed toward the Valar, inside the command center. Raylan turned to his team. Now we show them who we are. The humans fought. They didn't have the biggest guns. They didn't have the strongest shields. They had something else. They didn't give up. They attacked again and again, even when they got hit. They boarded the first enemy ship. Kara and 2 soldiers broke inside. Inside, the walls were alive. Shadows moved. Whispers crawled into their minds. Kara felt fear, tried to grab her heart, squeeze her lungs, but she fought it. She shot the walls. No. She burned the shadows. And then they saw it in the heart of the ship, a creature made of pure darkness. Its eyes were holes, its mouth a silent scream. It didn't attack them, only stared. And Kara felt something strange. Her worst fear, her deepest memory, rose inside her mind. Her brother's death. The shadow fed on it. It grew stronger. Kara fell to her knees. The creature smiled, but then Raylan walked in. His eyes locked on the creature. It tried to read his mind, but Raylan's mind was blank. No fear, no pain, no past. The creature shook. Its body started to melt. Raylan lifted his gun and fired once. The shadow screamed as it burned into ash. The ship around them cracked. The walls exploded. Kara gasped. How? How did you do that? Raylan helped her up, his voice low. I've already lost everything. I've got nothing left to fear. They escaped the ship before it broke apart. The rest of the fleet saw what happened. The enemy had been hurt. Across the galaxy, the message spread. Humans had fought back and won a battle no one else dared to fight. For the first time, the enemy stopped. They turned toward the Valor. A voice echoed in space, cold, empty. You are different, Raylan answered. We're human. The war had just begun. The black ships did not leave. They moved closer, slowly, like hunters circling a single prey. The Valor floated alone in the sea of stars, surrounded on all sides. Every human inside the ship felt it, the pressure, the fear pushing into there. Heart's Kara stood at the command console, her hands tight on the controls. Captain, they've surrounded us. Raylan nodded. Good. Saves us the trouble of chasing them. The crew gave him a quick look. Was he serious? Outside the enemy, ships began to change. Their metal bodies opened. Strange dark wings spread out from their sides. Black fires sparked under them. The air around the Valor shimmered, even though there was no air in space. It felt wrong, Kara whispered. They're charging up weapons. Raylan didn't move. Let them. Kara swallowed hard. Captain, if they fire, we'll be dead. In seconds. Raylan's eyes stayed locked on the screen. We will, if we stand still. He turned toward his crew. Battle stations, full power. We break the circle. The soldiers ran to their posts. Kara slammed her hands on the engine controls. The ship's power engines roared. From every side, the enemy ships started firing black beams of energy. The beams tore across space, burning everything they touched. But the Valor moved. Kara spun the ship sideways, the engines screaming at full speed. Black beams missed them by inches. The humans felt the heat, even inside their armored ship. Raylan gave the order, turn fire all weapons. The Valor opened up. Lasers, missiles, plasma cannons, everything they had. The sky turned into a battlefield of fire and light. One enemy ship exploded, then another. But for each ship destroyed, 10 more came closer. Inside the enemy ships, no pilots were found. They moved like shadows, empty but alive. like death itself was flying them. The Valar punched through the circle. Kara pushed the engines beyond their limit. The ship shook. Its metal groaned. "Engines overheating," shouted one engineer. "Let them burn." Raylan called back. The humans raced through the enemy lines, leaving a trail of fire and broken ships behind. But the enemy didn't stop. They followed like a black wave. As they escaped, Raylan sent a message to Earth. "We engage the enemy. They are different. They feed on fear. Tell the world fear is their weapon." The reply came quickly from Earth Command. "Understood, but Captain, no other species is willing to fight. They're running." Raylan's face turned hard. "Then they'll die running." Kara looked at him. "We're alone in this, aren't we?" Raylan gave a small nod. "We've always been alone." For 2 days, the Valar kept moving, jumping through star systems, fighting off small attacks. The enemy didn't stop. They chased like shadows in a storm. But something strange started to happen. The humans noticed the enemy. It's changing in the first attacks. The enemy ships acted wild, moving fast, firing without order. But now, they moved like an army. Started blocking escape paths, setting traps. They fired together in patterns. Kara watched the battle logs. They're learning. Raylan stood over her shoulder. "Good." Kara frowned. "Good. How is that good?" Raylan looked at the screen, his eyes calm. "Because it means they're afraid of us now. The enemy. Afraid." But Kara realized he might be right. The black ships had started keeping more distance. They didn't rush in like before. And when the Valar attacked, some ships even pulled back. The enemy was adapting. But so were the humans. On the third night, the Valar entered orbit around a dead planet, a cold, lifeless rock called Durnus. They needed to fix their ship and rest. The enemy didn't follow. For the first time in days, there was silence. Inside the ship, the crew repaired engines, reloaded weapons, and checked life support. Kara sat beside Raylan in the command room. She asked him quietly, "Why aren't you scared?" Raylan leaned back in his chair. "I've known fear all my life. I learned something. Fear only controls you if you let it. Once you decide you're not afraid anymore, it's powerless." Kara shook her head. "I'm not sure it's that." "Easy," Raylan gave a half-smile. "Nothing worth it is ever easy." Psst. Before she could answer, the alarm sounded. "Captain." A soldier shouted, "Incoming ship." "But it's not the enemy." Raylan stood. "Show me." On the screen, a small ship appeared. Old model, civilian class. No weapons. It was a Growl transport. The Growl Empire ships were known for speed. Not battle. The transport sent a message. "This is Viaran of the Growl Empire. Requesting help, please. We have nowhere else to go." Raylan ordered them to bring the ship aboard. When the transport docked, Raylan and Kara went to the bay. The door opened, and a single figure stepped out. Viaran, a thin alien with gray skin, tall body, and large dark eyes. His hands shook. His clothes were torn. "I am the last of my people," Viaran said. His voice was low, weak. "The enemy took everything." Raylan asked him, "Why come to us?" Viaran looked into Raylan's eyes. "'Cause you're the only ones fighting." Raylan stared at him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "You can stay. But if you stay, you fight." Viaran swallowed hard. I don't know how." Raylan placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then it's time you learn." For the first time, a non-human joined them. News spread fast. VRN sent a message to the galaxy. "The humans are fighting. They will teach us if you want to survive. Come forward." And he ignored the message. Some called him a fool, but others listened. Within days, small ships started arriving. Not many, but enough. A Drovian scout, a Xanari pilot, a couple of rebel fighters from distant worlds. All came to join the humans. They were scared, but they came. Raylan trained them himself, not how to shoot, but how to stand tall when afraid. He told them again and again, fear is natural, but giving up is a choice. Kara watched as the crew grew. Humans and aliens side by side for the first time. Hope flickered. But hope didn't last long. On the 7th day, The enemy came back. This time, bigger. A ship larger than any they had seen before appeared in orbit. It wasn't just a battleship. It was a mothership, the heart of the enemy fleet. Its shape was wrong, twisting like something alive and dead at the same time. From its sides, black clouds poured into space, shadows that moved like living creatures. The crew stared in. "Horror," Kara whispered. "What is that?" Raylan answered in a cold voice. "That is our real enemy." The black clouds moved toward the planet, toward them. Inside the Valar, Raylan gave his last order of the day. "Get ready, we're going up." Kara asked him, "Are we really going to attack that thing?" Raylan looked at her with a strange calm. "We don't run. We don't hide. We step forward." And as the enemy closed in, the humans and their new allies prepared to face the nightmare. The battle wasn't over. It was just beginning. The sky above the dead planet Durnus turned black. The enemy's mothership floated high in orbit like a massive shadow covering the stars. Its size was beyond anything the crew of the Valar had seen before. It wasn't shaped like a normal ship. It twisted and moved as if it was breathing. Inside the command room, Kara stood beside Raylan. Her eyes stayed on the giant ship displayed on the main screen. Around them, humans and their few alien allies prepared for battle. The Drovians checked the ship's shields. The Zainari pilot armed the torpedoes. Even Viarin, the Growl refugee, loaded weapons. They all felt fear inside their hearts. All of them, except Raylan. "Orders, Captain?" Kara asked. Raylan kept his voice calm. "To go up. Straight at them." Kara blinked. "You want to attack that thing?" Raylan nodded. "Yes." Stepped forward, his hand shook, but his voice was steady. "Captain, I have seen what those shadows do. Don't just destroy ships. They crush minds, break people before killing them." Raylan looked at him. "Good, then we know what to expect." The crew moved fast. The Valar lifted off from the planet's surface, engines roaring. The human ship rose into the black sky, its weapons ready, shields glowing. The enemy didn't wait. From the sides of the mother ship, hundreds of shadow creatures swarmed. They flew like living missiles, their bodies thin and sharp, their eyes burning red. The first wave came fast. "Brace for impact," Kara shouted. The Valar fired its cannons. Explosions lit the sky. Some shadows burst apart, but more kept coming. The ship shook as the creatures slammed against it. Inside, the crew felt a strange cold in the air. The walls seemed to whisper. Varan grabbed his head. I hear them, in my mind." Raylan stood tall, his voice loud and clear. "Stand your ground. They feed on fear. Don't give them any." The humans fought back harder. The shields held strong. The weapons fired. Nandash stopped. Kara pushed the engines forward, breaking through the swarm. The Valar climbed higher, heading straight for the mother ship. But then, something strange happened. The shadows stopped attacking. They pulled back. Kara frowned. "Why are they falling back?" Raylan narrowed his eyes. "They're waiting for something," and then the mothership opened. From its center, a giant black gate formed. Something came out. It wasn't a ship, wasn't a creature. It was both. A massive figure shaped like a man, but made of shadows and metal. Its eyes burned like suns. Its body was covered in sharp armor. It moved slowly, but every move felt like thunder in space. Kara gasped. "What is that?" Bjorn whispered. "That's their leader." The shadow giant pointed at the Valar. A voice echoed inside the minds of every crew member. "You dare fight." The voice wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was empty, cold, like death speaking. Some crew members dropped to their knees, holding their heads, but Raylan stood firm. "We don't bow," he said aloud. The voice spoke again. "Then you will fall." The shadow giant raised its hand. A black spear of energy formed in its grip. It threw the spear. Kara shouted, "Incoming." The Valar turned hard. The spear missed by inches. exploding behind them with a shockwave that tossed the ship forward. The crew held on tight. Raylan gave the order. All weapons fire on the giant.
Ow.
The Valor fired every weapon it had. Lasers, plasma bolts, torpedoes. The sky became a storm of fire and light. The shadow giant walked straight through it. No damage. Nothing touched it. Kara's voice trembled. Our weapons, they're useless. Raylan clenched his jaw. No, we're just fighting the wrong battle. He turned to Viarin. You said they crush minds? Viarin nodded. Yes, they break your will before they destroy you. Raylan pointed at him. Then it's not about weapons, it's about us. Giant raised its hand again. Shadows wrapped around the Valar. The ship groaned. The lights flickered. The crew felt the fear pressing inside their chests. Dark memories rose in their minds. Kara saw her family lost in a war long ago. She felt guilt, pain. Viren saw his planet burning, his people dying. The Drovian soldier remembered the moment his team abandoned him in a battle. The shadows whispered to them, Give up. You have already lost. But then, Raylan stepped forward. He looked at his crew, and he spoke. You are more than your fear. His voice cut through the dark like a blade. You are here, because you chose to stand. You chose to fight. And so did I. The shadows pushed harder, but Raylan didn't stop. They want you broken. They want you scared. They want you to surrender. But I say no. The pressure lifted just a little. The shadows hissed. Raylan kept going. We are human. We fight even when we're afraid. Fight because we refuse to give up. We fight because we know if we don't, no one else will. The crew stood. Taller. Kara shook her head, clearing the dark thoughts. She looked at Raylan with new eyes. Viren stood up straight. The Drovian gripped his weapon tighter. The shadow giant seemed to pause. Raylan pointed at it. We fight and we win. The Valor broke free from the shadow's grip. The engines roared back to life. The giant raised its hand again, but this time, the Valor dodged before it could strike. Kara turned the ship around, circling the giant. We're faster, she said with a grin. Raylan gave a sharp nod. And we're smarter. The humans didn't attack directly. They moved around the giant, forcing it to turn, to chase, to swing its giant arms and miss every time. The shadow giant grew angrier, and then a chance came. The giant opened its chest. A weak spot glowed. Inside, Raylan didn't waste a second. Caranel, the Valar fired a single torpedo straight into the heart of the shadow giant. The explosion was massive. The giant screamed up, sound that echoed across space. It didn't die, but it fell back. Hurt! The swarm of shadow creatures froze in fear. Kara shouted. We hit it. Raylan gave a cold smile. And now, we finish this. The shadow giant started to heal itself. Shadows tried to close the wound, but Raylan wasn't done yet. He opened the ship's come to all allied ships nearby. All units attack now. Aim for the chest. The Drovian scout ship joined the fight. Xanari fighters swooped in. Even small crafts fired everything they had. One after another, torpedoes and blasts hit the giant's weak spot. The giant shook. Its body cracked. The shadow swarm tried to protect their leader, but the humans kept fighting, pushing harder. Then, with one final blast, the shadow giant exploded into a cloud of black. Ash-dot silence fell over the battlefield. The shadow creatures screamed once and then vanished. Stared at the empty space. We did it. Raylan's voice was calm. We showed them we don't fall. The enemy fleet began to pull back. The mother ship closed its gates. For the first time, the enemy retreated. Raylan opened a message to the galaxy. This is Captain Raylan of Earth. The enemy can be hurt. They're not gods. They bleed. They break. And we will not stop. Across the stars, worlds listened. Some still hid, but others started to believe. The humans had stepped forward. And this was only the beginning. The mothership drifted back into the darkness. The shadows vanished with it, like smoke pulled into a black hole. For a moment, the galaxy felt quiet. Quiet. Inside the Valar, The crew watched the enemy disappear from their screens. The battle was over, or so they thought. Kara leaned against the console, catching her breath. They ran. Bjorn shook his head slowly. No, they retreated. Raylan stood with his arms crossed, staring at the empty space. His eyes were hard as stone. Kara looked at him. "Captain, what now?" Raylan spoke softly but with sharp words. "We hunt them before they learn to hit back harder." The command room fell silent. Viren stepped forward. "Captain, with all respect, we are one ship. They have thousands. We're lucky we survived this." Raylan turned to him. Luck had nothing to do with it. They bleed. It means they can be beaten. Kara met Raylan's eyes. "But we'll need more than this crew, more than a few allies." Raylan gave a slow nod. "We'll build an alliance, not of governments, but of people who refuse to run." A new voice broke into the conversation. It came from the ship's comms system. "This is Commander Jern of the Drovian Rebellion. We watched your battle. We want in?" Raylan exchanged a look with Kara. Jern continued. "The Drovian High Council ordered us to hide, but we don't hide anymore. We want to fight." Raylan pressed the come, "Then come forward. We'll fight together." More messages started coming in. A squadron from the fallen Zainari world, a rebel fleet from the Graal system, a group of mercenaries from the Rim planets. Even a handful of traders and pirates offered help. The galaxy, it seemed, was full of people. Tired of running, but not all welcomed this news. 2 hours later, a message came from the Galactic Union, an alliance of leaders from over 100 worlds. The message was sharp and cold. "To the human vessel Valor, stand down. Cease your attacks on the enemy. You're risking all our lives. Your actions will bring destruction on us all." Kara read the message out loud. "They want us to stop." Viren's face twisted in anger. "They want us to surrender." Raylan didn't look surprised. Cowards always blame the brave for fighting back. Kara stared at the screen. "What do we do now?" Raylan answered, with a calm voice. "We send them a reply." He tapped the console and spoke clearly into the system. "To the Galactic Union, we do not run. If you want to hide, that's your choice. But we will fight. We will step forward. And when the enemy comes for you, you'll be glad we did." He ended the message. The crew stared at him. Raylan gave a small smile. "Now, let's build ourselves an army." The next few days changed everything. The Valar became the center of a growing force. Small ships, fighters and freighters gathered around them in deep space. Not a large fleet, no match for the enemy's numbers, but they came with something. Stronger than weapons, they came with courage. People who refused to hide. Humans and aliens alike. Kara worked day and night with the new pilots, teaching them how to fight as a team. Viren helped fix old ships, turning cargo haulers into battle-ready crafts. The Drovian rebels trained their soldiers in hand-to-hand combat, learning human tactics. Raylan watched it all without showing emotion. But inside, even he felt a spark of hope. On the 5th day, Kara joined Raylan on the ship's bridge. "Captain," she said, "our fleet is ready." Raylan nodded. "How many?" Kara gave a small smile. 17 ships, 200 fighters, and 1,000 soldiers. Give or take. Raylan looked at her. Against a shadow fleet of thousands. Kara shrugged. "It's a start." Allowed himself a small grin. "It's enough." But just as they began moving toward enemy space, another message came. This one wasn't a warning. It was a challenge. The enemy sent it, straight to the Valar. A voice echoed across the ships. "Systems. Cold. Dark. You fight. You gather. You think you are strong. We'll show you fear beyond your limits." At the same moment, sensors picked up a massive energy spike. A wormhole opened in the nearby star system, and something terrible came through. It wasn't a fleet. It was a world. A black planet. Floating through space, wrapped in shadows, moving. Like a living creature, Kara gasped. "Is that a planet?" Bron's face went pale. "No, it's their nest." The shadow nest, the heart of the enemy, a living world of fear and death, and it was heading straight for the heart of the galaxy. Raylan's eyes stayed on the screen. "They're bringing the fight to us," Kara whispered. "What do we do now?" Raylan's voice was strong. "We do what we always do. We step forward." He sent a message to the entire fleet. "This is Captain Raylan. The enemy has shown us their heart. They think it will break ours, but they're wrong. We face them now. Together, no one runs. No one hides. This is our stand." One by one, the ships responded. "We stand with you, ready for battle." Did for the fallen. For freedom. Raylan turned to Kara. "Set course for the shadow nest." Kara locked eyes with him, straight into the heart of fear. Raylan gave a sharp nod. "Exactly." The fleet moved together, engines blazing, heading toward the darkness. The final war had begun, and the humans were leading the charge. The fleet flew through the cold emptiness of space. 17 ships, fighters, freighters, old warships, humans, Drovians, Xanari, Growl, rebels, all flying side by side. At the center of the fleet was the Valor, cutting through the dark like a blade. Ahead of them drifted the shadow nest. It was huge, the size of a planet, but alive, moving like a creature wrapped in layers of swirling black clouds. Strange cracks opened and closed on its surface like breathing wounds. The nest swallowed the light of nearby stars, turning space into endless night. Inside the command room of the Valar, Kara stared at the giant screen. "I've never seen anything like this." Varen stood beside her. His skin looked pale. "Neither have I. I wish I hadn't." Raylan didn't blink. His eyes locked on the nest. "This is it," he said. "We stop them here or nowhere." The fleet moved closer. A message flashed from the shadow nest. "You bring your fear to us. We welcome it." The car looked at Raylan. "You ready?" "For us?" Raylan's voice was calm. "So are we." The nest opened. Thousands of shadow ships poured out, bigger than before, faster, their bodies glowing with dark energy. The sky filled with them, like a black wave coming to swallow the fleet. Kara's heart raced. "Here they come." Raylan spoke loud and clear. "All ships attack." The fleet charged. The battle exploded in the heart of space. The humans led the front line. The Valar fired its cannons, blasting enemy ships apart. The fighters danced around the shadows. Shooting with sharp accuracy, the Drovians held the flanks, shielding smaller ships. The Xanari pilots dove straight into enemy lines. Taking out targets before slipping away, even the Grawl freighters joined. The fight, their old cannons lighting up the dark. Kara kept the Valor moving fast, dodging black fire beams and returning shots. Viren manned the main gun, firing nonstop. His fear was gone. Now he fought with fierce eyes, but the enemy didn't stop. For every ship destroyed, more came, Kara shouted. "They're endless." Raylan stood firm. "So are we." The battle raged on, and then the enemy changed. The shadow ships started merging together too, 3-5 at a time, melting into each other, forming giant monsters made of metal and shadow. They moved like beasts, smashing through allied ships. Kara gasped. "They're adapting." Raylan clenched his jaw. "They're scared. They're trying harder to break us." One giant shadow beast charged at the Valar. Its massive claws slammed into their shields. Shaking the ship, Kara fought the controls. Shields dropping. Raylan didn't flinch. "Target its core. Fire." Viren aimed the main cannon a single direct shot. The beam hit the beast's chest. The shadow creature burst apart in a cloud of black dust. The crew cheered, but more beasts came. The fleet started taking heavy damage. One Xanari fighter exploded. In front of the Valor, a Drovian ship broke apart after a direct hit. Viren shouted, "We're losing too many." Raylan's voice stayed calm. "Tell the fleet hold the line. Don't break formation." Kara turned to him. "Captain, they'll die out there." Raylan's eyes burned with fire. "Not if they fight together." He opened the cum to the entire fleet. This is Captain Raylan. We don't run. We don't fall. Watch each other's backs. Protect each other. And remember, they want us afraid. Show them we're not. The fleet tightened its lines. Ships flew closer together, covering each other, firing as one. They started pushing back. Enemy beasts fell. Shadow ships exploded. The Allied fleet fought like a single living creature. Raylan smiled for the first time. Now, we hit their heart. Kara turned the Valor toward the Shadow Nest. The ship dived under enemy lines, engines burning hot. They flew straight toward the nest center. Vron's hand shook on the gun controls. We're going inside, aren't we? Raylan nodded. That's where this ends. The nest opened its mouth, a massive black hole lined with sharp metal teeth. Kara whispered, That's an entrance? Raylan's voice was hard. That's our way in. The Valor shot forward, racing past enemy ships, dodging beams of black fire. Other Allied ships followed. Inside the nest, everything changed. The walls were alive. The inside of the nest pulsed with a heartbeat. Shadows moved along the walls, whispering in strange voices. The Valor flew deeper. Kara kept her hands tight on the controls. Where are we going? Raylan pointed at the core ahead. A glowing red heart in the middle of endless black. To the heart of fear, the shadows. Inside the nest didn't attack. They watched. Whispered Raylan stood in front of the command screen. His voice loud. They want us to be afraid. They want us to turn back. He turned to the crew. But we won't, Kara whispered. Not this time. The Valar reached the core. It was huge, a pulsing red sphere wrapped in chains of black. Energy. Vron's voice shook. That's it? Raylan nodded. That's it. He turned to Kara. Prepare the core torpedoes. Full power. Kara's hands moved fast. Ready. Raylan gave the order. Fire. The Valor launched 3 torpedoes straight into the red heart. They hit and exploded. The heart cracked. The nest screamed, a sound that tore through space. The shadows around the walls shook and broke apart. Outside, the enemy fleet paused. The shadow beasts turned in fear. The entire nest began to collapse from inside. Kara shouted, We did it. But then, a shadow moved in front of the Valar. A massive figure, the shadow giant from before, but now larger. Darker, its eyes burning brighter. It spoke inside their minds. You will not win. Raylan didn't hesitate. He looked at Kara. Ramming speed, Kara blinked.
Captain.
Raylan's voice was sharp. Do it. Kara slammed the controls forward. The Valor charged straight at the shadow giant. The giant raised its arms.
Ow.
But the Valor hit it with full force. The giant exploded into dust. The ship burst through. Straight into the collapsing heart, Kara shouted. The nest is falling apart, Raylan ordered. Get us out now. Kara spun the ship around, engines at full power. The Valor raced back through the dying nest as explosions ripped through. The walls, Allied ships followed outside. The nest cracked apart, pieces of its dark shell breaking, falling into space. The enemy fleet saw it, and for the first time, the shadows ran. They turned. They fled. The Valor shot out of the nest just as it exploded behind them. A wave of light washed over the battlefield. The shadows vanished into the dark. Silence fell. The Allied fleet floated in space. Watching the last of the shadow nest crumble into dust, Kara whispered, We won. Viarn laughed. We won. The fleet cheered. But Raylan stayed quiet, staring at the empty space where the nest had been. Kara stepped beside him. Captain, Raylan spoke in a low voice. This was just their nest, not their end. He turned to his crew. We showed them we won't run. We showed them we won't fear. Now they know who we are. Crew nodded. The galaxy had seen, the humans had stepped forward, and this war is far from over. The shadow nest was gone. Pieces of it floated in space like broken rocks. The black creatures had disappeared as the battlefield lay silent. But silence didn't mean peace. Inside the Valar, the crew checked the ship's damage. Sparks fell from broken panels. The engines hummed weakly. The shields were at half power. Kara walked into the command room with a report. "We're alive, but barely." Raylan stood at the center of the room, his hands on the console. Looked over the damage reports without emotion. "What about the fleet?" Kara sighed. "We lost 7 ships, nearly 100 fighters gone. But most of them made it." Viaran walked in behind her. "The enemy fled. We broke them." Raylan nodded. "No. We hurt them. There's a difference." The crew exchanged looks. Kara asked, "Captain? What? Do you really think they'll come back?" Raylan's eyes stayed. On the dark space outside the window, yes, they don't stop. They only pull back when they're afraid, when they're planning something worse. Viaran crossed his arms. "We'll be ready." Out. But Raylan didn't answer. His mind was already thinking ahead. A soft beep came from the console. A message. Kara opened it. It was from Earth's command. The message read, "Return to Earth. The Union wants peace talks with the enemy. You are ordered to stand down." Kara stared. Added in shock, "Peace talks." Vraan's voice rose. "They want to make a deal with the shadows." After everything, Raylan didn't move. "Of course they do. Cowards think they can buy safety with words." Kara shook her head. "But the shadows don't make peace. They destroy everything." Raylan finally spoke, his voice low. "The Union doesn't understand that. They want someone else to fight their battles, while they sit safe behind walls." Viaran slammed his fist on the console. "We're the ones fighting. We're the ones bleeding." Raylan gave a cold look at the message. "And we'll be the ones deciding this war." He turned to Kara. "Set course for Earth." Kara frowned. "We're really going back?" Raylan's voice was sharp. "Yes, but not to stand down." The fleet moved through space, heading back toward human territory. On the way, more messages came from the Galactic Union. "Stand down. Do not attack again. Peace talks are in progress." Raylan ignored them all, but something strange happened as they got closer to Earth. They found more ships. Waiting, not enemy ships. Human ships. Old warships from forgotten battles. Private. Vessels. Cargo ships armed with cannons. Even civilian crafts flying together in formation. Kara stared at the radar. "Where did they come from?" Viaran smiled. "They came because they believe." Raylan opened to come to them. "This is Captain Raylan." "Why are you here?" A voice answered, strong, clear. "We heard what you did. We're done hiding. We stand with you." Another voice joined. "The Union wants peace. They can have it. But we'll fight. With you." Raylan felt something inside him, not pride, not power, but something deeper. Hope. Kara gave him a small smile. "Looks like we're not alone anymore." Raylan nodded. "Once? No, we never were. People just needed a reason to stand." The fleet grew bigger with every passing hour. By the time they reached Earth's orbit, there weren't 17 ships anymore, there were hundreds, and waiting for them was the Galactic Union's fleet. Thousands of sleek ships, shiny, polished, untouched by battle. The Union sent a message. "Human vessel Valor, you are ordered to disband your fleet. You will surrender your command. This is your last warning." Inside the command room, Kara shook her head. "They don't get it, do they?" Raylan's eyes stayed locked on the screen. "No, they don't." He opened the "Come to the Union fleet. This is Captain Raylan. We do not surrender. We do not disband. We fight." The Union answered quickly. "Stand down or be destroyed." Kara held her breath. Raylan's voice never shook. "Then fire." Silence followed. Seconds passed and the Union didn't fire. Instead, something else happened. One of the Union warships sent a message. "We stand with the Valor." At another ship joined. Then another. One by one, Union ships broke formation and flew over to Raylan's fleet. Kara's eyes widened. "They're joining us," Farron whispered. "They've been waiting for someone to take the first step." Raylan gave a sharp nod. "And now they have." The Union fleet fell apart. Some stayed back, but most joined the humans. And just as they did, the sky darkened again. A shadow portal opened above. Earth, The enemy was back. The shadows poured into the system, but this time, they didn't come alone. A new ship appeared, larger, darker, unlike anything before. Its shape twisted in ways that hurt the eyes. It sent a message to every ship, every person. This is our final offer. Surrender or be erased. Kara stared at the screen. They're serious. Raylan's face turned to stone. Are we? Opened a message to the entire human fleet, old soldiers, rebels, mercenaries, and former Union ships. This is Captain Raylan. They offer surrender. We offer freedom. Stand with us. Fight with us today. We end this war. The fleet roared in reply. All ships ready, standing with you, for Earth, for the galaxy. Raylan gave the final order. Step. Forward. The human fleet charged. The shadows met them in the dark, and the greatest battle the galaxy had ever seen began. The human fleet surged forward like a storm. Hundreds of ships, warships, fighters, freighters, all moving as one. The shadows met them head-on. The sky turned into a battlefield of light and dark. The new shadow ship, the largest they had ever seen, stayed at the center of the enemy fleet. It didn't fire, it just watched. On board the Valar, Raylan stood tall in the command room, watching the battle unfold on the screen. Kara called out, shields holding, enemy pressing hard on the left flank. Baron shouted from the weapons. Console Drovians are pushing forward. Zainari squadrons need backup. Raylan gave quick orders. Send the Growl ships to cover the Zainari. Push right and surround them. Don't break formation. The crew moved fast. The human fleet fought harder than ever before. It didn't break. It didn't run. For every shadow ship destroyed, more came. The humans and their allies fought. Back as one. Raylan's fleet had become something the shadows didn't expect united. But deep in the dark sky, the massive shadow ship moved. It began opening slowly. A strange black light poured out from its center. Kara stared at the screen. What is it doing? Viren whispered. That's not a weapon. Is it? Raylan narrowed his eyes. No, it's calling something. The answer came fast. The stars above Earth started to flicker. One by one, they disappeared. And then the darkness moved. Something massive drifted out of deep space, bigger than the shadow ship, bigger than the shadow nest. It wasn't a ship, it was a creature, a living nightmare, a shadow god. Its body stretched for miles, its eyes burning red like twin suns. Its skin was made of swirling black clouds. It moved slowly, but every movement felt like the sky itself was breaking apart. The humans had fought shadow creatures before, but this was something else, Kara whispered. It's alive. Raylan stared at it, his voice calm. The heart of fear. The creature spoke not in words, but in every mind across the fleet. You stand, you fight, you hope. But all things fall before fear. Soldiers on every ship felt it. The pressure. The fear crawling into their hearts. Some screamed, some dropped their weapons. Some ships started to pull back. The shadow god was crushing them, without even moving. Inside the Valor, Kara held her head, fighting the dark whispers. Varen fell to his knees. I can't breathe. Raylan stood still. His voice broke through the dark. No, it's one word. But it echoed louder than the whispers. Kara gasped for air. Captain, how? Raylan's eyes locked on the creature, his voice steady. Fear only wins when we listen. He opened the ship's comms to every human ship, every alien fighter, every heart in the fleet. This is Captain Raylan. The shadows want you afraid. They want you broken. They want you to believe you're weak, but you are not. The crew listened. The soldiers listened. Raylan's voice grew louder. They have numbers. They have power. But we have something they'll never have. He stared at the enemy god. We have each other. Kara stood up straight. Fear lifted. Viren rose to his feet, gripping his weapon. The fleet stopped pulling back. They turned and they fought. The human fleet charged at the shadow god. The creature roared, a sound like a storm breaking the sky. But the humans didn't stop. They fired every weapon, every missile, every cannon. Light clashed with darkness, and for the first time, the Shadow God stepped back. It felt fear. Raylan gave the order. Aim for its heart. Don't stop. The entire fleet focused fire on the creature's chest, a swirling red core that pulsed with dark energy. The god lashed out, tearing through ships with shadow claws. One Drovian cruiser exploded. A Xenari fighter was ripped apart, but the fleet kept pushing forward. Kara shouted, "We're getting through." Viaran fired the Valor's main gun, a direct hit on the creature's heart. The Shadow God screamed in rage. Raylan called out, "This is our chance! All ships! Full power!" The fleet poured everything into that final attack. And then, the Shadow God cracked. Its heart shattered. The creature exploded in a blast of black light. The shockwave hit the fleet. But instead of fear, it felt like a weight lifted off every heart. The darkness vanished, the shadows fled, and the sky turned. Clear again, the battle was over. The enemy was gone, inside the Valor. Silence filled the command room. Kara stared at the screen, eyes wide. "We did it." Varen let out a shaky breath. "We beat them," Raylan nodded. "We showed them who we are." The fleet began cheering. Across space, soldiers cried out in victory. The humans had stood and they had won. But Raylan knew, this was more than a battle. This was a message to the shadows and to the galaxy. Humans would never run. They would always step forward. The battlefield hung silent in the deep space around Earth. The Shadow God was gone. The enemy fleet destroyed or scattered, but victory didn't feel loud. It felt quiet. On the Valor, the crew stared at the empty screen in front of them. Kara spoke first. "It's over." Viren nodded slowly. "We survived." The soldiers on every ship cheered across the fleet. Messages of victory echoed from ship to ship. But Raylan stood still, his eyes fixed on the space where the Shadow God had. Fallen Kara noticed. "Captain, it's really over. We won." Raylan's voice was low. "No, we gave them a message. We showed them we won't bow. But this was only their first god." The words hit hard. Viaran frowned. "You think there are more?" Elaine nodded once. "There's always more. That's why fear works. Because people think the fight ends after one victory, and that's when fear strikes again." Kara stepped closer. "God, but we're still here. The fleet is standing. The people are with us." Raylan turned to them both. "Yes, and that's what matters now." Across the fleet, ships gathered again in orbit around Earth. Messages came from every corner of the galaxy, from Drovians, Xenari, Graal, and other species who once stayed silent. "We stand with Earth. We will fight the darkness." Your courage woke us up. The Union leaders tried sending orders asking the fleet to stand down, to give control back, but no one listened. For the first time, the galaxy wasn't waiting for leaders to save them. They were saving each other, Raylan opened a message to all allied ships. "This is Captain Raylan. We stood together against fear, and we won. But this is not the end. Fear will return. When it does, we'll be ready, because we don't fight for power. We fight for each other." The answer came in a single voice, thousands of ships speaking as one. "We fight together," the fleet roared. Hope burned brighter than any star, but even in victory, they knew this wasn't a fairy tale. The scars of war remained. Earth's cities opened, their gates to soldiers returning from space. The people cheered the fleet not as heroes, but as brothers and sisters. No statues, no speeches, just unity. Kara stood on the surface of Earth days later, watching ships land. She saw human soldiers shaking hands with Drovians, Xenari sharing stories with Grell. No one cared about race, planet, or history. They all survived together. They all fought together. Viren walked up beside her. "Never thought I'd see this." Kalray smiled softly. "Neither did I." High above, the Valor floated in orbit. Raylan stayed aboard watching. Waiting Kara joined him later on the bridge. You should come down, she said. People want to thank you. Raylan shook his head. This isn't about thanks. It's about remembering why we fought. Kara gave a soft laugh. You never stop, do you? Raylan finally allowed a small smile. No, because the fight never stops. Kara nodded. Then we'll fight with you. Raylan looked out into space. Good, because the shadows aren't done. Somewhere out there, its fear is waiting to rise again. He turned to her. And when it does, we'll be ready. The Valor powered its engines, not for battle, but for patrol, for watching the dark. 4. Stepping forward always, as long as there was fear. Humans would stand because that was who they were. The galaxy would never forget the day fear came. And the humans who didn't run, they stepped forward, and they would never stop.